What if I told you the key to maintaining the U.S. military's future air superiority may be to take the human pilot completely out of the equation? Hello everyone, my name is Callari, and today I'm going to be talking to you about autonomous UAV technology in the U.S. military, how this technology can benefit the U.S. military, what it means to implement it into the U.S. military, how we can go about doing this, and so on. I'd like to begin with how the U.S. military has been such a huge innovator and contributor to the advancement of UAV technology. In the global war against terrorism, these unmanned aircrafts have been proven to be very effective in surveilling and destroying enemy insurgencies in the Middle East. In my presentation today, I am going to be going over how these machines have been consistently evolving with time, and they evolve based on how much human input is used in controlling them. Right now, our UAVs used in military operations are controlled by a remote pilot in a distant location. What I am talking about is fully autonomous UAVs that do not require a pilot for flight. So why are UAVs so useful to the U.S. military? First off, they remove the risk of loss of U.S. personnel life. This can happen in the chance a UAV is shot down. There's no pilot on board, no loss of life. Second off, they are much less expensive than a traditional manned aircraft. A UAV typically costs around $6.5 million in the chance of an MQ-9 Reaper, which is traditionally used in the U.S. military, as opposed to $91 million, which is the cost of an F-35 manned aircraft. And to go into the autonomous levels of how these could be so useful, the U.S. military is currently in a shortage of pilots. There's a shortage of personnel. So pilots with autonomous UAVs can control multiple aircraft simultaneously, or there could be no need for a pilot whatsoever. Now I would like to go into the technology and what makes these UAVs actually fly. You may have heard the term drone before. That is because when these aircraft just started out, they were very primitive compared to today's UAVs. All they were radio-controlled aircrafts, and they had a radio pilot on the ground. But advances in UAV technology have allowed these aircrafts to be much more autonomous. They have built-in control, guidance systems. All this on computers on board the aircraft allow it to function with minimal human effort. So going off how these UAVs are becoming more autonomous, the goal is to increase the UAV's ability to do as much autonomous onboard processing as possible through its computers. A UAV has multiple computers, primarily its payload computer. What a payload computer does is provides onboard sensor control, image aggregation, local processing for image and other metadata, compression, and storage. This makes it so these UAVs can go through a mass amount of data and observe this data and send it back to humans who are controlling it. Now I would like to go in what would make these UAVs fully autonomous. So what it means when a UAV is autonomous is its ability to self-navigate, communicate with other UAVs in the air, and process all this data through its onboard computer without any human input. The U.S. Department of Defense has already invested heavily in fully autonomous UAVs, such as the Paradix, which is a very small UAV that flies around in a very large swarm of up to 100, and the Navy's Locust, which flies around in smaller swarms of maybe 5 to 6. By increasing the number of UAVs in the air, it makes it difficult for the enemy to shoot down what is surveying them. So if there's one UAV in the air, the enemy can easily shoot that down and eliminate the threat. If there's 5 to 100, it is almost impossible for a modern-day enemy's air defense to take out all the threats that are present. Now I'd like to go into the competitive environment that the U.S. government has created because of its desire to have UAVs for military use. 4 companies dominate the U.S. UAV market. That's General Atomics, Northrop Grumman, Textron, and Boeing. These four companies contribute to 66% of all UAVs and UAV technology used in the U.S. military. Now, autonomous UAV technology is key to the future of these providers. All these companies are competing for these military contracts, and a piece of this vast defense budget that the U.S. military has. It is key that these companies make advances in autonomous UAV technology in order to get these contracts. Now I'd like to go into whether implementing autonomous UAVs would be economically feasible in the U.S. military. The U.S. military budget for 2017 is $587.2 billion. Of that, $4.61 billion is allocated to UAV-related spending, and another $525.3 million is allocated to UAV-specific research into new UAV technologies. To put this into scale, the Paradix program that successfully dropped 100 fully autonomous UAVs from an F-18 that successfully carried out their mission cost $20 million. If that program successfully implemented autonomous UAVs, imagine what $525.3 million. I believe this plan is very economically feasible for the U.S. military. Now I'd like to go into how fully autonomous UAVs can be implemented into the U.S. military effectively. First off, I'd like to go with the challenges that are in implementing fully autonomous UAVs. UAVs, since their initial use in the war on terrorism, have been a subject of moral dilemmas of whether or not these machines can be used and whether or not they can carry out lethal force. These moral dilemmas can be eliminated by taking these initial fully autonomous UAVs and using them for surveillance and reconnaissance missions only. By taking away their ability to use lethal force, it eliminates the moral dilemmas of how these machines are used in warfare. Right now, another problem that arises is how much the U.S. military has already spent on its manned fighter aircrafts. They are well in over $500 million into their new F-35 projects. What are we going to do with all these aircrafts that we've already purchased if we make a transition over to using more fully autonomous aircrafts? Well, since Boeing has actually proven that old military aircraft, such as an F-18, which they took and put a UAV system in it and computers to make it fly without a pilot. So this is an old manned aircraft. Boeing had a project in order, it converted over 100 of these aircrafts into aerial targets, and they successfully converted an old military aircraft, manned aircraft, into a UAV. This can be done in the future if we are still at a pilot shortage, with such as right now, when we are short 750 pilots in the U.S. Air Force, and we can implement these fighter aircrafts and turn them into new unmanned aircrafts, which can maintain U.S. air superiority in battle. Now, to go to the advantages that far outweigh the negative outcomes of implementing autonomous UAVs. They're very cost effective. One low-cost UAV, which is the Navy's new fully autonomous UAV system, costs $15,000, as opposed to a MQ-9 Reaper that costs $6.5 million. This can vastly decrease our military budget if we don't risk our more expensive planes on basic reconnaissance missions. Also, there's a huge pilot shortage in the U.S. military. This can be overcome by implementing autonomous UAVs. By giving a single pilot the ability to control multiple UAVs or have UAVs function without a pilot at all, would completely overcome the need for pilots in the U.S. military. They also can offer ground troop support, such as the U.S. Marines, who wanted to fly overhead as they conduct missions. And UAVs ultimately can eliminate human error. If autonomous UAV technology advances to a point, it can completely erase human error in aircraft and U.S. military aircraft operations. Now I'd like to end with the question of whether I believe or not how likely it is for the U.S. military to implement fully autonomous UAVs. I believe it is extremely likely that the U.S. military will implement fully autonomous UAVs in the near future. The U.S. military has always shown an interest in UAV technology and has already expressed interest in these new fully autonomous UAVs by investing a lot of money, and they sure have the budget to do so. With that said, in the near future, I believe the U.S. military will use fully autonomous UAVs for surveillance and reconnaissance missions in its war efforts. I'd like to thank you all for your time today. My name is Callari. Let me know if you have any questions.